Today we'll be interviewing Kevin Bull from American Ninja Warrior and manager at Dojo Boom. I'm Benjamin Royer.
I'm Matthew Royer.
And this is Twinger Talk. Thank you for sitting down with us today, Kevin.
Thank you for having me. Thanks
We're
for
just
coming.
going to ask you a few questions, okay?
Okay, sounds good, guys.
So, how did you get started with American Ninja Warrior?
I got started with American Ninja Warrior by being a walk-on, actually. So everybody submits a video every year through the casting process, but mine wasn't selected. So I camped out in front of the course for 4 days in order to get a spot to run.
Being a collegiate athlete, did it help you at all in the process of learning how to become a ninja?
Yeah, collegiate sports definitely helped me a lot. I competed in track and field and did the decathlon, which is a multi-event. So it helped me learn how to train for multiple disciplines at one time. The camaraderie you get from being on a team, the work ethic, things like that, that plays a lot into my ability to perform on Ninja. So yes, it helped out a lot.
How much harder was it being a walk-on on American Ninja Warrior than afterwards not like having some experience running these courses?
Definitely the first year is probably the most challenging. Having experience goes a long way in the ninja world, and there's a lot of different skills you need to do. There's a lot of new things, and some of them are you'll see year after year. So for the experienced people, those obstacles, there's a steep learning curve for them. So having that experience lets you get through it much more easily.
So as you know, there's qualifying, there's finals, and then there's Vegas. What's the competition and toughness compared from qualifying all the way to Vegas?
That's a good question. Qualifying, the very first qualifying course is definitely the easiest course that you'll face. The city finals course, though, that's very challenging. You can proceed through the competition without completing the course. So it's a little forgiving in that way, but actually hitting that buzzer at the end is very challenging. So I would say I certainly have more trouble completing city finals courses than I do completing the first stage of Las Vegas. But stage 2 and stage 3, those are harder, I'd say, than any of the city qualifying courses. So that's kind of where the layout gets in terms of difficulty as the season goes on.
So tell us about your work with the Children's Alopecia Project.
So Children's Alopecia Project is a nonprofit. It's for kids that have a condition called alopecia, which is where your immune system kills off your hair as it grows, which is also a condition that I have. And I started working with them after my first year on Ninja Warrior because I thought that it would be good to use the platform that Ninja gave me to help others who are going through the same condition that I went through, particularly kids, because alopecia is something that doesn't affect your health, but it does affect people's confidence. And getting people's confidence back after developing the condition, I think, is the most important thing, especially with kids, because they don't have the experience of dealing with things like that prior, and they're learning it all for the first time.
How were you involved with the creation and process of opening Dojo Boom?
Well, Dojo Boom, I worked with a company called Circus Tricks to open this up. They build parks all over the world, and they're now the largest trampoline or aerial recreation park company that's in the world. And they helped a lot with the building and the design. They planned it out. My biggest contribution was the ninja course we have behind us here. And I helped design the obstacles we were going to use, the layout of it. And that was my biggest contribution. Also, I helped assemble everything as we had the contractors coming in and everything during the build process.
Are there any obstacles here in this gym that are hard for you to do?
Yes, absolutely. There's a few things in here that are challenging for me. One is our super tramp wall, which is a lot of fun. There's a lot of tricks you can do on it, and I'm still early in the learning phases of learning how to do all of these tricks. So that one's always a challenge. I did throw a nice challenging portion into our ninja course as well, where we have 3 unstable bridges followed by a difficult transfer to either a cliffhanger or rings. That is a challenging part, and I wanted to make sure we had one really good challenge in there for everybody. And then Another thing that's really challenging for me is the silks. That's the thing that I cannot do very well in here. Of all the things, the silks, that really gets me.
How does it feel that you are inspiring a new generation of young ninjas?
Well, it feels amazing. You know, I just like to be able to share what I've done with my life with so many of the younger people now. I really enjoyed growing up in a place that I had access to this big wilderness area. I lived out in the woods. I had privacy. I had all kinds of obstacles I could build out there. Trees themselves are obstacles. So I grew up with this sort of lifestyle, but most people don't have access to that. So having a place like this here brings that access to a lot of people that didn't have it before. And here we have pads, which is something I never had growing up.
Do you have any advice to any of these young people who want to look up to you and do what you do on a daily basis in ninja?
Sure. My advice would just be that you've got to keep trying. There's successes you're going to have, there's setbacks you're going to have, but you just got to keep going after it. If you have a goal, be willing to try again, because that's what it takes to be a good ninja. You're going to fall more times than you're going to succeed, especially in the training process. And you just don't get frustrated, you keep working at it, and eventually you'll get it.
The community of ninjas has grown a lot in the last 5 years, and just in general for the ninja community. Does it get harder every year with new ninjas coming in and causing more competition for you to face?
Yeah, every year does get harder. And especially in the most recent years, the younger group of guys that are coming in, they're much more skilled than the young guys were when I first started, because these are guys that grew up with the show. We're starting season 10 of American Ninja Warrior now, so there are kids that have been training for 10 years and they're just turning old enough to come out and start competing. So they've got youth and they have experience as well, especially with access to gyms like Dojo Boom. So it's really exciting and it's fun to see what they can do, and it's good to have the extra challenge.
What was the hardest obstacle for you to complete on American Ninja Warrior?
The hardest obstacle that I ever completed was probably the hourglass drop. It was an unstable bridge that you would drop into a trampoline off of, but the trampoline had only two sides sprung, so the front and the back were totally loose. So you had to hit exactly even and balanced in the center in order to go back up and catch another unstable bridge. And it was very touchy, and it was very close every time I did it.
So my grandpa and I, and my brother, we always watch American Ninja Warrior, and we watch all the contestants go up the warped wall. We have our own strategy for it because you have to hit certain letters on the warped wall, in our opinion, to get it up. What's the easiest way for you to get up the warped wall?
To get up the warped wall? Well, the warped wall, it's interesting. I go back to my track and field background of pole vaulting. And in pole vaulting, you're always thinking about the steps leading up to your jump. And for me, I transfer that in my steps leading up to the warped wall. So especially that last step. When I'm running at the wall, it's kind of hard to judge when it starts to curve. So I think, okay, what's the last step? How far out is the last step I'm going to take on the flat ground? And it's usually about a foot before the curve starts. And as long as my step's there, I know my next steps will be on, and I should be able to make it up that warp wall.
With new versions of Ninja, like College Ninja Warrior, Ninja vs. Ninja, the sport of Ninja has been growing rapidly in these last few years. What is something that you'd like to see come to the sport in the future?
Well, that's a good question. One thing that I'd like to see come to the sport in the future is more regional competitions. So competitions that are done all over the country. A lot of what we do for the sport now is filmed. A lot of it is set up for TV, and I would love to see more things happen that are also outside of the show format so that more people can get involved. Because when we do it on TV, it limits the number of people total, I think, that can have access to it because there's only so much airtime. So I'd like to see everybody doing it.
Well, thank you for sitting down with us today, Kevin.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank
It's
you.
been fun.
I am Benjamin Royer. I'm Matthew Royer.
And this is
Twinger
Twinger Talk.
Talk.